Ruth, thank you so much for having me in your beautiful studio. I kind of want to move in here.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Do you have the wax and resin heating over there?
I do.
That,
It's crackling.
yes.
I haven't heard that in 9 months since I've been without a studio. So
Yes. So
smelling that and hearing that is so awesome today.
I am really interested to know how you got into art, because from what I've read, you haven't been doing this for a super long time. Tell me about that.
I have not. I started weaving 10 years ago, and I did that because I moved to Ohio in the middle of the winter in a blizzard and knew no one. And so I was doing it to pass the time. And those weavings went from baskets to sculptural, crazy things, and I did that for 5 years exclusively. When we moved back to Fort Wayne, I heard about encaustic and was really interested in it. So I went to San Antonio and took a workshop and learned how to do that.
Wow.
So I've only been doing encaustic for 5 years. And I started
crazy.
acrylic paintings 2 years ago.
Okay, so I want to back up. Prior to starting the weaving 10 years ago, did you have any inclination that you were an artist?
My background is an interior designer.
Okay.
So
So
just
it's not
kind of
too
goes-
far out there.
It's not too far out there. But no, I had not tried a lot of things. I was raising kids and working and
Sure. Okay, now 5 years ago, you get into encaustic, which I feel like I've talked to a couple artists who do encaustic, but I still need the breakdown. It's layers of wax.
it's beeswax mixed with Damar resin, which is the hardening agent. It's kind of like a tree sap.
Okay.
It's a medium that's been around for actually over 2,000 years. It goes back to the Mayan temple portrait days. It will preserve art forever.
Wow.
So it's layers, and every time you put a layer of anything down on this, you have to fuse it with a torch or a heat gun. So it's fused to the layer before it. And I have some pieces that may have as many as 25 layers.
Wow.
And you scrape back and add and
What was it when you moved back to Fort Wayne that got you interested in encaustic?
I had met someone in Ohio that was dabbling in encaustic, and I just loved the texture, the luminosity, and all the different things you can do to it to manipulate it, and it was just intriguing to me. So when I saw this workshop available, a beginning workshop in San Antonio, told my husband, I'm going down, I'm gonna spend a few days down there, and I came back and just never stopped. I've attended so many workshops.
So tell me a little bit about the process of encaustic. I know that you broke down that it's layers, but where do you even begin?
I have tins that I melt on a hot plate. It's just a griddle like you would buy to make pancakes on. And I usually prefer to use pigmented wax. It's already pigmented instead of mixing my own, but I do mix the colors a lot. So I have tins for each color. I heat it to 180 degrees, and then you can paint with it like a fluid, but it dries pretty quickly.
So do you have an idea of what is going to come out on the canvas before you start, or do you sort of let the materials inform what it's going to look like?
Never. I never plan a painting. Wow. I just put the wax on the board. You have to use a board instead of a canvas because it can
that
crack.
makes sense.
So until I start putting the colors on, I don't really know where I'm going with that.
So you start putting the colors down, and at what point do you start scraping back and really letting it kind of reveal itself?
It depends. There are times when, I may put 4 or 5 layers of color on, and that layer might not be over the entire piece. It might just be in portions of it. And then I feel like, something needs lightened here or darkened here. So you add, you subtract, you scrape, you carve in it. There's so many things you can do.
You must obviously just have a real knack for it, just an eye for it. Do you ever come up against feeling like you don't know how to finish a piece, or do you kind of hit those roadblocks, or is it always...
I could show you my storeroom on the other side of that wall and you would understand that. So there are many times where I just kind of put them away.
Okay.
And then I'll go pull them out a month later, 3 months later, and start reworking it. And sometimes within 5 minutes, I knew exactly what it needed and it's done. But yeah, I do run into that.
I'm almost relieved to know that because it was feeling like it was coming a little too easily. Now the acrylics, that was just a couple years ago. And what made you venture into that medium?
Well, I am an early morning person, but I was working full-time outside of the house. I do part-time work from home now. But I would get up in the morning and I wish I could heat my wax. But it takes 30 minutes to heat, it takes 30 minutes to cool. That doesn't give you very much. If you only have a couple hours, it doesn't give you very much painting time.
Right.
So I thought, I should try acrylics. And I saw a workshop offered at a castle in Lexington where I've been a few times, and decided to go down and learn to paint with acrylics. Learning to paint with acrylics is not the hard part, but just really enjoyed it. So I started doing that like in the mornings, and then painting with wax in the evenings and on the weekends. Wow. So
what inspires your work? I see lots of color and kind of geometry. I can't put my finger on it. Do you have a single inspiration?
I don't. It could be anything from peeling paint off of the curb at a rest area to the way the weed is growing in the yard. It's just, something will just strike me and just inspire something.
What is the hardest part of creating your work?
I think knowing when it's done. And there's very few times when that's obvious, but there have been times when I finished a painting, a couple times, don't laugh, but I finished a painting and set my brush down and had tears in my eyes because I know it's done.
Wow.
This is done. This is exactly how I want it to be. And there are other times where, do I go on? Do I not go on? That's difficult for me.
When you have that definitive feeling of being done, is it hard then to potentially sell that piece?
I usually hang on to those for a while.
Yeah.
I do. And then maybe another one will come along and I'll decide to sell the other one. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you do the acrylics usually in the morning. Do you give each media the same amount of time, or is there one that gets a little more attention?
Encaustic. Now that I have a place to do it again after 9 months, it's always my number one. Acrylic is number two, and I still enjoy weaving occasionally.
Yeah.
And I think, even some of the things I've learned while painting with acrylics has helped me with my encaustic work too. So there's crossover in all of that. So
You've only been at this for 10 short years, this being art. Do you feel like you have evolved as an artist?
I do. I started teaching workshops about a year ago too.
Really?
And so part of this space will be for teaching.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Do you wish that you had started down this path sooner?
Of course. But with working full-time and raising children, I don't think that would have been possible. I don't think I could have given it what it deserved. And now with my children and grandchildren being so far away, I have so much time to devote to it.
I read that you said you're an artist because you have to be. I'm paraphrasing, but explain that to me.
It's a compulsion. It really is. I'm just so addicted to art. I have just been a mess the last 9 months without a studio.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. You mentioned that this is a brand new studio. What did you do for 9 months? Did you really just not create at all, or was it on a smaller scale?
I taught an after-school program at Canterbury last January, and for 4 weeks, twice a week, I got to go turn wax on and paint with these high school kids and loved every single minute of it. But other than that, I have not done any encaustic. I have in the garage, when the weather got warm this spring, took my easel out and did do some acrylic. Not much. The garage is not a real inspiring place.
Not very conducive.
No.
What do you think that this space is going to mean for your artwork?
I think that the direction I want to go is to help others get involved in art, and I feel that's the purpose of this space. Not that I'm not going to enjoy it and love it, but to be able to, I had someone tell me recently that there was someone that's been to 3 of my workshops, and she looked at me, and it was her friend, and she said, "You have changed her life." And that to me is what this studio is all about.
Wow.
Just, if I can help someone, who maybe is having some problems, kind of break through that and find something, I think that's fantastic.
Is this your dream job?
It's what I'm going to do when I totally retire.
I would say yes then, because
Yes.
if you're going to do it when you're retired,
Yeah.
that means you really love it. Ruth, your work is beautiful and your passion is really cool. So
Thank you so very much.
thanks for sitting down with me today.
Sure.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by the Our Foundation and the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne.